Alright. Nope, my mic's not taking up. What the fuck? Oh, it's frozen. Oh, there we go. Okay. Hey guys, I'm Matt Lighty. This is a video going over the framework or concept of a build that I've been very infatuated with the idea of cooking up for about a year and change now. And I have it basically built, the framework, and it's like relatively accessible. I think if you were in trade, this entire thing costs maybe 10 divines at most. You can get it up and running for probably a couple. Nothing here is wild, and it's almost all unique. I don't have flasks on, I don't have tattoos, I don't have anoints, the tree is missing things, and my right ring is a white ruby ring. Alright, so that's the benchmark. Now, this build is revolving around the concept of maximum charge stacking and overriding through Rallycash, and then looping that principle through the Slayer, Ascendancy, and the Badge of the Brotherhood. All that means, ipso facto, is basically, if you stack power charges, you also have the same amount of maximum frenzy and endurance charges. Okay, you get the frenzy charges from Badge, you get the endurance charges from Masterful Form. The tree looks pretty wild. We're traveling across the universe and picking up sparse things here and there. You could put more points in places, you could move some stuff around, but there's a lot of fun, comfy interactions with the build because of how we make it. So there's like a checklist of things that this build has that covers a lot of bases. Now you may be saying, oh, you're playing CI, 2.5k ES. That's a bit weird. How squishy are you in general? Well, it's interesting because I am fairly squishy. That's fine. Just to put in any old 16 here. But you're only really squishy from maximum hits, which is like, that's basically the same thing as saying you're going to get one shot no matter what. But in any situation where you're just able to sit here, you actually take literally no fucking damage. If you do get hit, you regen it basically instantly. So there's a lot of goofy principles at play here. So because of the way we're charge stacking, we end up having 90% fizz mitigation, 80% plus evasion, 75 spell block, chaos immunity, 1 to 2,000 life regen, all stats covered for gear. You can have up to 10 curses at once. You have elemental ailment immunity, ghost shroud, 112% ES recouped as Ellie, or vice versa. So there's a lot of goofy interactions here. So I'm going to kind of go through it. So again, maximum power charges equals maximum frenzy equals maximum endurance because of the Slayer, and we have all of that active because of Rallycash boots. Alright, so all your charges count as full, and then you have Graven Secrets, the basic Maven belt, means our maximum power equals our maximum absorption, which we would have to generate. However, you're always generating them from Will Clash, which gives us maximum spell block. It's very fun. This ends up equating to permanently 10 absorption charges and 90% fizz mitigation, 80% dodge, 12 to 1500 life regen at the moment for me. Capped, res capped. And again, this is res capped with not much res on tree and all uniques, because endurance charges cover a lot of resistances plus purity of elements, which gives us ailment immunity, chaos immunity from CI, cap spell block, a little bit of regular block. And decent move speed, considering we have no move speed on boots. We're getting a ton of move speed from Replica Restless Ward, which is giving us our regen. All the downsides of it are bypassed because of our looping. All the downsides of Malachite is bypassed. All the downsides of Will Clash is bypassed. All the downsides of Void Battery is bypassed. Anathema makes it so our power charges give us tons of curses. If you don't want to run a lot of curses, you could just run, if you had the money, you could run a +1 max charge ring and a Calandras to just get more stuff. That'd be the Trade League move. Surge Binders, like, I love these shit tier uniques like Surge Binders and Will Clash. You can get +1 power charge in Will Clash, and it gives you +1 every other charge, and that scales up, that's like 10% more damage and defenses each time you get a power charge. So that's fantastic. And Surge Binders gives us a ton of damage scaling as well, and because it's, again, a shit tier glove, it's very easy to get LE weak on hit on something like this, or very easy to get power charge to something like this over the course of a league. It's very easy to get +1 gems on a Malachite loop over the course of a league, because these are all very accessible uniques, right? And realistically, so is Badge, but I don't really know what the hell you'd want in place of that. But I digress. Through all this sort of scaling and the tree, you end up getting a ton of elemental spell damage and crit. So we're currently running a 4-link And we're using Winter Orb because it's just like, you know, why not use a meme scale? And even on a 4 link, we're actually able to pretty much clear pretty comfortably, and our mana regen is exceptionally high, considering, you know, what's happening, and our clear feels honestly okay, considering we're on a 4 link with meme items. It's just like there's a lot of synergy going together here, and you could, this is the basic framework showcase of this, because I just want to, the idea, the concept of it is very interesting. Now the other parts of Slayer you get are, and this is like where it gets a little weird, like you have maximum life recovery for life leech, and you know, I don't really know what else to grab here. Base crit with attack. Yeah, there's really, I don't know. The last 2 points are kind of whatever. This gives you more damage against uniques and 20% cull. That's fine. It's like the idea of Slayer utilizing this is the funny part, but like there's really not much else. You can pick up more AoE, but whatever. So let's just go over the basic tree. So you're starting as a Slayer duelist. You're coming down here. There's a lot of ores we're running because we're trying to cover a lot of bases. We have a lot of percent scaling, but we don't have a lot of flat, right? So we want a lot of flat. So things like Determination and Grace. Tons of benefits for having all those charges, you know. All the charges we have gives us a lot of fucking juice. So in the charge, so fizz damage per endurance, you 6, 5, whatever, fizz for, you know, we have the LE scaling, attack speed scaling, cast speed scaling, movements. Yeah, there's tons of scaling, and we even have additional scaling from this little nugget here. You get this mastery is armor and evasion per charges. Well, that's 80% increased, you know, armor and evasion. We have 10 charges. Again, if you had +1 will clash, +2 rings, that's 13 charges you're working around with. These little small nodes kind of go crazy, right? This is 50% increased armor. This is 50% stun duration. This is 30% AoE. All these 8% damage nodes, those are 80% damage, right? And the same thing goes for these frenzy ones, and the same thing goes for the power ones up there. So the scaling gets really wonky when you start getting stuff super high. Picking up some aura things because they're going to running purity of elements, determination, grace, clarity, and discipline. You can run more or less auras depending on your setups. I have level 4 enlightens, but I have no clusters. You could move stuff around and then you could run less. You don't have to run as many auras if you don't want, but it just kind of felt right. So we're pathing past all the aura stuff. Again, power charges is all we need. That's what we're scaling off of. Ghost Dance is really fun. It actually works really well because, you know, let me just go sit in another pack. Ghost Dance obviously gives us a bunch of ES recouped on hit whenever we get hit, which actually isn't that often because we have 80% chance to evade. But when we do, we actually recoup a chunk of that ES back. We're very often having Ghost Dance charges up because we're not getting hit too often. Obviously, this is like as I'm just eating hits, but when you're in combat, Ghost Dance charges come back quite quickly because we have, what, 30,000 evasion? 30,000 evasion? This just from Grace, right? That's just from Grace scaling because we have so much percent that the flat's going crazy. So it's really, really funny with that amount. And again, like, all this ES is being recouped from the LA damage we take. So these absorption charges are 12% recoup of elemental as ES, okay, over 4 seconds. So we're just like, if we're ever taking elemental damage and not getting one shot, it's just recouping back pretty much in its entirety. Very small ES pool at the moment. Again, that's, you know, kind of by friction of design. But going back up here, CI, because it felt right, you can go life, petrified blood, pay into it. This just kind of felt more fun, so I went this. Wicked Ward, so once our shit starts, it doesn't stop. Hexmaster we just have on because I have a setup here with just level 1 curses. You could run a second one of these in my boots, and everything will have 6 curses. You could do another one on your shield and move some stuff around, and everything will have 8 curses. Your curse limit's equal to your power charges. We have 10 power charges. You can have 10 curses. It's just hard to actually get up to that many curses that matter. But you could run things like, you know, specific damage type, plus LA weak, plus enfeeble, plus temp change, punishment, assassin's mark. Kind of go through the gambit. Power charge, coming over here, we got Mystic Bulwark. This gives us a ton of mana regen, and then Prodigal Perfection is just more. We have a lot of mana, so this gives us some nice spell damage. Here's the power charge stuff, so that's mana regen there, crit strike chance, crit multi. So like our Winter Orb has 43% chance to crit. That's just from our charges, basically, right? So it's pretty juicy there. I do pick up 1 block node. This pretty much just puts us at cap. You could get a master if you want, or not. That's fine too. Theo, because we have all this life regen from Replica Restless. This actually goes up to 140, so it would be 1400 base regen if you had a better one. That's just going straight to ES, more aura stuff. And this is a cool timeless jewel, not very expensive. It's just any Dominus. You just want to make sure that the Dominus doesn't eat Faith and Steel or Overcharge. You just get random one of these converted, and you might want to get a specific, keystone or notable from the thing, but it doesn't really matter. You just do it for Inner Conviction. Inner Conviction just gives us 30% more spell damage. That's literally all it does. No downside there. It's just, gain power charge instead of Frenzy. It's irrelevant. I'm at Captive Everything, so it's just 3% more damage per power, which is just super, super comfy for us. What other interactions are there that I missed? So instead of running Void Bat, which is like, I would say, of the things here, this is probably the rarest, bar Anathema, but you really don't need Anathema. This is just kind of meme tech. So if you did have a Void Battery and you somehow got a Tullfall actually gives tremendous amounts of flat. That's 500 to 700 cold damage to spells for the Tullfall. Again, because all of our scaling is pretty much spell and elemental, you just want to do an elemental or spell thing. So it doesn't matter what skill you use. I just picked Winter Orb because it's like widely considered a meme skill until it's scaled to the moon. So I thought it was just fun to see like, what would happen if I actually put it in a winter? It's fine on a 4-link. The other links you'd probably run, like Inspiration, because mana could be kind of crazy since you have a lot of, stuff allocated. But, like, the concept kind of stays the same, where it doesn't really matter what you put in there. If you want, you could probably fix it so you can run, some sort of Explosion Flask or whatever, and do something that has way better single target than a GMP level 1 Winter Orb. But it's just really funny. It's funny interactions. I just really like the whole concept of this build, and I think it works really, really well. And it's not too hard to pull off where it's like decently effective for mapping. The issue is going to ultimately become scaling when it comes to your energy shield. However, there's that's where things like tattoos come in. You could start tossing in much better jewel setups. I don't even have any fucking jewel setups. You could do things. You could automate a lot more things. But this is the framework of the design. I think it's totally worth investing into. Equally as potent if you were to do it on an occultist or an assassin. Obviously, you're dropping endurance charges. I think a large draw for this for me is the concept of basically with zero, or I should not say zero investment, but minimal investment in line with what we're doing. We end up having 90% Fizz mitigation, 80% chance to evade. And I think that's pretty fun, And again, there's room for growth, room for things you could do here. I'm missing 3 power charges easily. So, in trade, you can get these 3 power charges. A Calandris is like a divine right now. Maybe 5 on launch. Any power charge ring, doesn't matter. That's great. And a Will Clash for power charge, you probably just get one at the course of a league. So it's a really fun framework concept. And again, you could put in whatever skill you want, as long as it really scales elemental. You could kind of do whatever. So if Winter Orb can work, most everything's going to be able to work. If you want to do Arc, you want to do Spark, you want to do something like, I got one-shots. There's the one-shot scenario. So like, I only have a certain amount of, ES, right? So the key is getting more ES. How can you get more ES to where it becomes feeling decent? That is part of the conversation. A lot of funky interactions with this sort of charge stacking build, and the potential for it, I think, is quite high to make it really enjoyable. At the very least, it allows you the archetype to pretty much mess with any spell that could interact positively with these sort of interactions. You gain a ton of flat from Ice Bite from Frenzy charges, a ton of scaling from Power Charge on crit. So here's Freezing Pulse instead of Winter Orb. It still feels pretty fine. There's a rare. You can see how they die quite quickly. Definitely would run a 5-link with Inspiration. I think that'll make this feel a lot better. Yeah, Freezing Pulse feels pretty good. I mean, you could do Ice Spear, you could do Freezing Pulse. I had Winter Orb. It really doesn't matter too much. I think a Cold skill works the best because you get all that innate scaling from Ice Bite, right? You have, what is that? Fucking 200 extra flat on top of the 114 top-end flat. So that's like 360% top-end flat cold damage. But yeah, kind of mess around with whatever you want. I just like the concept of this build. I think there's such rich rich fun to be had in this sort of build environment. There's definitely a lot of cool stuff that you could do and really make the build pop off and have fun scaling charges on basically Gucci Hobo type setting. I mean, you're using almost exclusively unique. So I'm using a ruby ring, obviously. You could just use a non-ruby ring in this setting would be a lot better. But yeah, this has been Power Charge Stacking Slayer. It's a really fun framework for a build. Would recommend checking it out. You could definitely play some sort of build with this in a league setting, and even in solo self-bound, and it would be pretty accessible. You'd have to do maybe a little bit of magic finding, a little bit of Ghosted Exiles, a little bit of Heist. Replica Restless is quite common. I find one every, like, I don't know, 10 blueprints probably. And yeah, everything else isn't too rare. Anathema's the rarest thing probably, if not Void Bat, and then again you could use a Tullfall or, you know, whatever else you want. It's not the end of the world. And yeah, that's it. I've been Matt Lighty. This has been this little experimental archetype showcase. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any suggestions or interactions, feel free. Again, you could scale this much higher in trade with synthesized rings, better corruptions, Watcher's Eyes, Sublime Vision with Discipline gives you extra power. Tons of things you could do, but this is the basis. And hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.